Welcome to Craft Chat Chronicles, the go-to podcast for tips on crafting best-selling fiction. Here at Craft Chat Chronicles, we bring you expert interviews, insights, and tips on writing, publishing, and marketing. Join the conversation and embark on a new chapter in your writing journey. For workshops, show notes, and more information, visit jdmyall.com. That's jdmyall.com.
On Season 2, Episode 7 of Craft Chat Chronicles, we have a debut author panel. Welcome, you guys, to another Drexel MFA Alumni Craft Chat. Tonight, we're going to dive in and we're going to have a rich discussion with a fantastic group of debut authors. They're going to talk a little writing, a little publishing, give you the inside track on the debut experience from people who are still in the thick of it. So can we start by having our panel go around and introduce themselves? Shalini, do you want to bite the bullet and go first?
Sounds good. Yeah. So hi, everyone. I'm Shalini. I'm a writer based in Ontario, Canada. And my debut dark romantasy, This Monster of Mine, will be coming out in spring 2025. The tentative date we have set is April. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. MC, do you want to jump in next?
Sure, thank you. My name is MC Dixon, but if you're just talking to my face, you can always call me Christine, because that's one of my many names that I go by. My debut novel is called The Height of Land. It is debuting March 4th, 2025. I just got my date, so I had been a vague spring person for a while. I have in the past, I have another book that is nonfiction that's about writing called Millions of Suns, co-authored with a poet friend of mine, Sharon Fagan McDermott. So I have a little bit of like having done this as a nonfiction author last year and now doing this in fiction and feeling the kind of the differences of going about this both on my own and with a novel rather than a collection of essays. So here we go.
I'm Jill too. I am a debut author with a book coming out this October 8th. The Dividing Sky is a young adult dystopian novel about a girl who uses her neurochip to illegally deal happy memories, and the handsome rookie determines to arrest her. I'm a big sci-fi geek. I loved like Hunger Games and Divergent and stuff growing up, and wanted to write a story with an all-BIPOC cast and 2 Black leads, and so here we are. And yeah, I've been writing for about 10 years and got agented about 3 years ago. And then we sold this book about 2 years ago. And then since then, I sold a couple of middle grade books to Disney, and then as well as my option book to Penguin Random House as well. So yeah, happy to chat about any and all part of the querying and submission process, and even writing, before all of that with kids, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Who wants to jump in and go next?
I can go ahead. I'm Arriel Vinson. I'm in Dallas. My debut YA novel in verse is still summer 2025 with a tentative date of June 3rd. It's about a Black girl who falls in love with the skating rink, but the skating rink closes due to gentrification. So I do write mostly fiction and poetry. So I was excited to bring those both together.
I love that.
So my name's Ashley Jordan. The name of my book is Once Upon a Time in Dollywood. It is an adult romance / women's fiction, currently slated for fall 2025. Kind of have a date of October 7th, which is my birthday, so I'm hoping it stays there, but who knows? I'm with Berkeley, and what else? I'm also a Reese's Book Club Lit Up Fellow, as well as Ariel. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask. It's been a great journey. And so yeah, let's see. I wrote my book during the pandemic, and I started querying for the first time in 2020. It was right around the time, Black books matter, Black stories matter. So I did Pit Mad. Is that the one that was on Twitter at the time? I think it was Pit Mad. I got a bunch of requests, but no no offers. I got one offer, it didn't feel right. So I decided to stop, revise. And in 2022, I decided to apply for Reese's book club Lit Up because I had the book ready, but I was too scared to query again. So I just kind of decided to do that to see what happened and somehow got in. And so that made my querying journey, I found, a lot easier once I did query again in 2023. So what they do with Lit Up is that they have a bunch of agents that are participating, which means that they'll ask for your manuscript if they like your query. So I got a few agents. I'm looking at my query. My query that way. And then I also created a few on my own. It went very fast because thanks to Lit Up, I think. I had my first offer in a couple of weeks. So then I was able to go back to everybody and say, hey, I have an offer. Are you interested? And ended up with 6 offers, I think. So it was it was a very stressful but wonderful time. I think anybody that gets an agent offer, it like, wow, the power's in my hand now, which I really, really enjoyed. But it was also very stressful. So my agent ended up actually not reaching out until like the last day of my deadline. She had COVID, so she hadn't been able to actually read. So she reached out the last day as I was typing out my rejection emails to other agents. She's like, I'm so sorry, but I will read this in one day if you give me a chance. She reached out to me like 1:30 that night. She read it in like 12 hours. And I just loved everything she said. Like all the other agents were like, oh, I think it's ready to go. We can go on sub. Like this is August. It was about a year ago. And they were like, we can go on sub after Labor Day. And I'm like, that don't sound right. My agent was like, I have a couple of, notes for you, a couple of revisions. And that I always felt like there was something missing from the book. And she really like hit the nail on the head. So that's how I ended up choosing her. And yeah, we went on sub in November and sold in about 2 weeks at auction. So yeah.
That's awesome. Exciting. What was the auction experience like?
Oh God, it was stressful. I mean, nobody can really prepare you for sub is what I found, because querying is a very, universal experience for authors, but getting to that point where you have an agent and go on sub is much quieter, I found. So I was going a little bit crazy. Luckily, my agent would email me often. She's like, I will hold your hand through this, I promise. So she emailed me like every day and she was like, well, we have these people interested, these people pass, etc. But the first offer we got was actually from Berkeley, first call rather. And that kind of triggered, I think you guys will probably notice it triggers more offers and more calls. So we had that first call after about a week. And then I took 5 or 6 more calls after that. One of them was really odd. I won't say who it was, but I was glad they didn't end up offering because it was a very strange call. But all the other ones went really, really well. And it was a really difficult decision. This was actually around Thanksgiving. I think my auction was like the day before Thanksgiving. So on top of everything else, I was like trying to plan Thanksgiving with my family and everything. But it was a best offers auction, I think is what they call it. So basically we got a bunch of emails by 1:00 that day. And it was stressful to wait. And because I wanted Berkeley, I really did, to be honest. And I was scared they wouldn't have the biggest offer. So I'd have to my agent would be trying to convince me to go with someone else. And I don't know, they technically had the highest offer because they offered on 2 books, but someone else had a higher offer for 1 book. So we kind of did a little back and forth to try to get them to match the per book offer. And thankfully, even though my editor was on a train to her parents' house, we were able to get them to match that. And it went perfectly, I guess, in the end. So amazing experience.
Awesome. MC, can I hear your story? Your agent story, your publishing journey, please?
Yeah. So I had been a classroom English teacher for ages, and finally kind of got burnt out, as happens to a lot of teachers. And so really didn't start writing seriously until about 2019. And then when I really gave myself the space to do that, books started pouring out. And so the novel that I am debuting next year was actually the first book that I wrote. Millions of Suns, which was published last year, came afterwards, or kind of like through that same process. So these were kind of like simultaneously happening. We had gotten individual essays from the collection published. So there was some interest, just like having them out there. And we had submitted, neither me nor my co-author were agented. So we were submitting independently straight to like university presses. And that's who picked up the collection because it kind of functions as a classroom text or for individual writers in their practice. But the novel, I'd sent it out to a couple of agents and had some, complimentary declines. And so never got an agent for that one either. In fact, that one, I submitted the manuscript to a contest with Orison Books. Orison Books specializes in literature that has some sort of religious or spirituality element to it. And in my book, the main character goes in search of gods who have been banished from his culture. And so he's seeking for dialogue with the gods, ends up, finding it through poetry, through Walt Whitman, through Lucille Clifton. And he doesn't know what he's reading, but he finds, a connection to the divine that way. So I was like, okay, well, it's spiritual. Sent it in, didn't hear anything for a long time. And then finally heard that I was a finalist, nearly fell off my chair. And then had to wait unbearable months to hear for the final result. And then finally got this beautiful email. And of course, got it in the middle. I was in an interview for a job and saw the email pop up on the side of my screen. And I was like, must not freak out on screen. And did successfully complete the interview, read the email, cried my eyeballs out, and that's the story. So Now the Height of Land, that was in October 2022. So this is also a small press. It's it's really one guy with some people that he hires out for editing and that kind of thing. So they do. I mean, even large presses can move slowly, but it's certainly been. It feels long to me, but of course, this is publishing. Publishing takes a long time.
Very true, very true. Shalini, can we hear your publishing journey?
For sure. So I started out as a lawyer, right, like I graduated right at the start of the pandemic, actually, which was not ideal. And like MC, I also burnt out after like several years in the profession. And while working, just to de-stress, just to get back in touch with the creative side of myself that I had neglected throughout law school. I just returned to writing, read up more on the craft, and like so many people, wrote a book during the pandemic. And I began querying it in January of 2023. I finished it in November of 2022, but read over it, got some beta readers to read over it, did several passes that way, and then went on to query in January of 2023. Did not go well. Absolutely overwhelmingly rejected during the first few months over there. And I ended up reworking the book and then going all in with querying, mass emailing pretty much every single agent I had on my list, as opposed to the batch querying I was doing earlier. And somehow that was what worked. And I ended up with one of my now current agents offering for me in May of 2023. So I spent about 5 months querying. And as things work with publishing, when someone shows interest, everyone suddenly perks up. And so I was in the amazing position of being able to tell all these agents, well, if someone's interested, are you interested? And I got a really unusual offer where an agent who was interested in the book reached out to me and said, hey, I know that you have an offer, and I know who's made the offer, and we both agree that maybe we should represent you together. And she said that she would take the US side of things, and that Molly, my now UK plus that half of the world Asian, would take the other side of things. And it was just such an interesting offer. It was, and I absolutely loved them as people. And so I ended up accepting and got 2 agents that way, which was lovely. And we went on submissions shortly after, and ended up going to auction once HarperCollins Penguin Michael. Oh, I feel like I'm going to butcher the house, but I think it was Penguin Michael Joseph, PMJ. Were interested, as were Hotterscape. And yeah, I ended up going with Hotterscape, and then we sold to the US with Union Square and Co., which is sort of it's Barnes and Noble's publishing arm. So that was definitely fun. And the timelines were very long. Like we sold to Hotterscape in about August, which I know is very short in terms of like being on submission for about 2 months. But the US definitely took a lot longer. And yeah, we sold to the US by like about November, maybe December. And yeah, ended up with 2 amazing agents and 2 amazing publishers after being burnt out in law for so long. Oh, I should add, I did leave the profession. But yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Jill, I think you're the furthest along of all of us in the process.
Yeah.
So tell me about what it felt like when does anybody else have your cover, by the way? Have you seen your covers yet? No, me either. Okay. Tell us about seeing your cover and how that process went and how much, if any, input you got into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna butcher the timeline, but I want to say probably around like May of last year. I got an email from my editor asking me to fill out a questionnaire that just had a bunch of questions about, elements of my cover, character descriptions, things I like on covers, things I don't. They sent a really nice, helpful guide that like helped me think about how they like what language they use to talk about covers, whether it's like illustrative or like more like nature focused or like different kinds of categories of covers. And of course, as a debut author, you've been dreaming of this moment forever. Like I had like a million, Pinterest boards and stuff. And I was like, oh, great. Like here, like let me dump all this stuff in here. So I gave them that. And then I think it was like 2 or so months later, they came back with 5 different artists. And so they said, okay, like this is our kind of slate of artists. Give us your top 3, like ideally in like rank preference. And I did. And like it was a mix. It was a lot of like illustrative stuff. So, like a lot of big names that done like a lot of covers that I loved. And some people that I had like are kind of newer into like the cover space. And I chose my 3. And so my publisher, so I'm under Penguin Random House. My imprint is called Joy Revolution. And it's started by Nicola and David Yoon, who are 2 authors in their own right that are married and wanted to start an imprint dedicated to love stories written by people of color, starring people of color. And they're very involved. So I sent my top 3 choices in rank order to my editor, who shared them with Nicola and David, and then with her boss, who's like the head of the publisher of like the kind of that arm of Penguin Random House. And I was outvoted. They were like, oh, sweetie, like, this is your first go around. Like, we're the professionals. Trust me, like this other artist you haven't even thought of is going to like make it pop. And I was like, okay, I totally could have put my foot down and been like, no, I want what I want. I was admittedly going for some choices that felt very safe, felt very much like covers I'd already seen. And they were definitely thinking, let's do a cover that no one's ever seen before. And so I was like, great, like I actually don't have a horse in this race because I know my limitations and like graphic, like visual art is one of them. So I was just like, great, like you guys go ahead. And they chose this amazing artist who goes by the name of Schorsch, but his name is Jose Luis Moraldo. And he came back like a month and a half later or so with 4 different kind of like concepts or like theories for covers. And when I tell you, like when I opened that email, I like full body flush, just like, oh my gosh, like this is it. Like this is what I want. This is perfect. The cover we ended up going with is like almost exactly what he did. It's like this beautiful sort of like neon glitchy cover. What I love about it is it feels very much like sci-fi covers that you've seen around it. Like there's like a Winter's Orbit kind of vibe around it. But what I love is even though it's this kind of silhouette style, it was very clear that we needed to have the hairstyles and other features communicate and kind of telegraph that this is a Black couple. And so like even though it's a very like innovative, like feels very like on brand sci-fi cover, like the representation is still there, the curls are popping, like it's like perfect. And so I'm like very happy with how it landed, and I just love it so much. What I also love too is like when it went live on NetGalley, you could see other covers and other books that are coming out around the same time. This like purple orange thing is like a thing. Like it's just happening like across genres, across imprints and houses, and I love it. I think the Purple Orange Club is like my favorite club to be in. So
love that, love that. Dami, I'm sorry.
That's all good, all good.
So tell me about where exactly you are in the process right now.
So right now in the process, I am waiting on developmental edits. And kind of from there, we'll kind of go into copy edits, and hopefully by the early of next year, like that's when we'll be thinking more about like copy edits, that sort of thing. So that's where I'm at. What I've kind of learned with this process, which it sounds like a lot of people have learned, is, you know, publishing kind of deals in business months as opposed to business days. And so getting used to that. And so that's where that process is with my debut. Like I mentioned before, I also got an agent after I signed with my publisher for this particular book. And so kind of working on like developmental edits, like with an agent, like concurrently for a different book at the same time. And so trying to balance both has been interesting, and kind of make sure like my brain is kind of primed the right direction. But so that's kind of where I'm at.
Love that. Does anybody on the panel want to talk about their experience with edits so far?
I can. I feel like I've had, like, even though we only did 3 rounds, I feel like I've been editing for years. Like, I feel like this is the longest part of the process. My first 2 rounds were very plot heavy. There was just something, I threw something in at the end and they were like, Ariel, you cannot do that. It's like, are you sure? And then when I read it, you read it back and you're like, why did I do that at the very end of the book? That's not where that's supposed to go. But we did a lot of work about plot and kind of had a lot of conversations about what I wanted this book to get across. And then line edits, I think, is where we spent more time than we thought, because it's a novel in verse. Like my editor and I had a few conversations and I was like, I want every line to feel like it belongs. And I just really want to think about the language and think about the words and think about what does and does not need to be there. So what we thought was going to be 3 weeks, I like 2 days before deadline, I was like, it's not ready. and then I was like, can we please go back through this? So I took some time. I think I took like 4 extra days to go through. And then my editor went through and then gave them back to me. And then I gave them back to her. So we are now waiting for copy edits, because we finally, came to a space where we're like, okay, we now know what we kind of want to look for with the language, with how it looks on the page. So waiting for copy edits. And they also emailed me the other day about blurbs. And I was like, I can't believe we're already here. And I already had a list ready for them. But so we're in the copy edits, blurbs, and finalizing the cover stage. I'm also trying to start writing book 2 because it is due at the end of the year. So
I think I was most surprised. I was a little surprised by some of them. Like she wanted me to strengthen the romance arc. So I had to go through and work on their dynamics as a couple, which I'm divorced, so I guess that tracks. but I thought it was pretty solid, but once it wasn't, it made sense. And I agreed with mine. I was comfortable with them. And I feel like the story is improved because of them. Has everybody else had a positive experience with their editorial so far?
Mine has been like deceptively short. I don't know, like my first edit letter was maybe a page, and then my second round was like 2 things. I was like, are you sure? But I've been editing this book since, like I said, 2020. So I guess it hopefully paid off. So yeah, I feel good. I just turned in my hopefully last round on Monday. So and finally got an email about like I started the conversations about my cover and I was very ready. Like I had the whole presentation and I had to stop myself from sending it immediately. I didn't seem like a crazy person. So, but yes, I'm so excited.
Has everybody had the little document sent where they ask you about your cover suggestions yet? And what did you say, Dami? Were there any particular covers that are out now that you like that you mentioned?
Yeah, so the editor asked me, any ideas regarding like cover, like, what would you like? What are you interested in? And they're essentially going to take that to the drawing board and then probably come with me with kind of a list, like Jill mentioned, like, these are your options, pick 2 out of 3 sort of thing. I imagine is what it's going to turn into. But I think there was actually somebody in our debut group who put up like a really nice sort of almost like PowerPoint presentation in terms of like what to send to kind of discuss your cover letter, like inspiration sort of thing. And so I actually used that sort of template and sent that to my editor, or sent that to the publisher rather. And that was really helpful. So I can kind of include, so it essentially included, you know, these sort of covers I do like, these are the sort of covers I don't like. And this is why I don't like these covers, this is why I do like these covers, that sort of thing, because I am not an artist, I am not a designer, I do not know any of that is not my forte at all. Not my ministry. And so I'm happy to pass it on to somebody who does know what they're doing, but also wanting to, like, this is my input and this is where it's coming from. And so take that and do what you will sort of with it.
I said I like Legendborn's cover by Tracy Young.
Covered, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Who haven't I bothered in a while? MC. Can you tell us about your call with the editor?
Yeah, I mean, so again, because I have kind of 2 books that I'm working on, I have comparisons, which is really interesting. And for the collection of essays, our editor at the University of Michigan was like pretty hands-off. I mean, she had some suggestions, but they were light, and they were, you know, there was no developmental phase, right? So the difference between developmental editing or line editing. And she was, you know, like, here's a couple things, these sentences don't sit right. We made those corrections, and then we got the proofreads, but that was really the only round of editing that we got on those. And so that went really quickly. And she was helpful, she was great. For the novel, I got much more extensive feedback from the editor. And there, you know, so I actually do work as an editor myself in a freelance capacity, mostly with academic writing, but with some other genres as well. And so you know, that helped me to be in the mindset of like, I know this isn't personal. I know that this person is like actually trying to like see the vision of this book, and all their suggestions are in the interest of this project. And it was still hard emotionally to take that feedback, to take that criticism. And there were times where I'll admit, I got my dander up a bit. Because you're trying to like tell me stuff about Walt Whitman, and I'm like, dude, I actually have a PhD in the subject, and so there was like a little bit of wanting to strangle, and so I had to like detangle what if the strangling is earned, and what if it is just my ego going like, no, you can't tell me. And so I had to stop myself and ask, okay, why is this comment coming here? What like is this just his ego trying to show how knowledgeable he is, or is this actually something that I am concerned about also with readers? And I think that emotional work of dealing with the edits is actually really important, and it is a learned skill. And it is not easy to learn, but I certainly think that the product, you know, of the edits, the actually listening, humbling myself a bit, and going through that process made the book a lot stronger and better.
Awesome. Shalini, what were your biggest surprises along your publishing journey so far, or about the debut experience? What surprised you?
I think what surprised me the most was how much I ended up hating, disliking, just being a little bit fed up of my book by the time the editing process was done. I mean, I really didn't expect that, because, you know, when you're writing it, when you're querying it, this is your baby, you're defensive over it. You know, you're so happy when an editor picks it up. And then, you know, you sit through, it was about 4 months of editing for me. And I thought, if I see this, if I have to read this one more time, like I am inches from just deleting the document off my computer, honestly. But honestly, that was what surprised me the most. But I think like something else that also did was just how much, I guess, and I'm not sure if other people, other authors felt this way as well, but just how much I had missed when writing my book. Plot threads, unresolved little bits of characterization that I just kind of left in there. Someone died in chapter 2. What happened to, well, how was that relevant later on to the story? Just little things that I'd left in there that, despite reading it numerous times, I'd completely glossed over. And my editors were honestly invaluable in terms of just picking that up and going, was something meant to happen over here? Because it's there. And yeah, I guess you think you really know your book, or that you really, you will defend it to the end of time. And I think by the end of this process, I still would, if I don't have to look at it. But
Jill, how about you? What surprised you the most throughout your publishing journey?
Yeah. So I think I'm trying really hard. Like I want to be like mindful of the audience and know that like you guys have a long road ahead of you. So I don't want to be like the like downer in the room. The thing that it surprised me the most, I think that has been the hardest by far, is how little like visibility you really have into how your book is doing. And how you react to that, says a lot about how your debut experience will go. I came from a background in a corporate background, then a startup background, then a very like data-driven nonprofit background. And I'm used to having, all the numbers in front of me, right? Of like how things are going, what's driving sales, what's driving customer behavior. You get like almost none of that. If it even exists somewhere in my like publisher, like I don't have access to that. And so I think what's been hard is, like good, bad, or indifferent, whatever your Goodreads rating is, however reviews are going, whether or not you get like starred reviews from Kirkus Publishers Weekly, like it's really hard to know if any of that is even moving the needle. Like if anyone's even like paying attention. A lot of the stuff that does matter, bookseller kind of like reception, all that kind of stuff is behind like a big curtain that you can't even really see into, and that you don't get a ton of information from your publisher's sales team about, if you even like know who to ask. So I think that's been like the hardest part, is just like, in theory, sort of like letting go and like seeing what happens. But at the same time, like it's our product. And in a lot of ways, like we are a business now. And in most businesses, like, how your product is doing. And so it's really hard to let go of that, or even just to say like, I'm going to focus on the metrics I do have. I think that's where a lot of authors get into trouble, right? Obsessing over Goodreads, obsessing over NetGalley, social media stats, all that stuff. Like it's really like even going viral, like doesn't necessarily lead to sales. And so it's really tough to know that you have almost no control over, what that is, let alone like even visibility into it.
And can I just say too that like we are really tempted to compare with each other, how our books are doing. And so what success looks like for Jill is not necessarily what success looks like for me, whether it's like the type of book that we're writing, the size of press that we're at, like what we can expect in terms of sales, uptake, all of these things. And I know, again, like I'm going to have that problem comparing with myself with like books that are totally different. And I want them both to do well, but they're going to be in comparison with me and with other authors. And that's really hard to avoid, but it's important to just like keep the mantra of like every book is its own little project.
For sure.
And success has to be terms other than like somebody else's measure.
Hi, JD Myall here. Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to thank you for tuning in and to let you know that this episode of Craft Chat Chronicles has been brought to you by Heart's Gambit, my debut novel. It's available for pre-order right now at barnesandnoble.com. What is Heart's Gambit, you ask? It's about 2 time-traveling families, one cursed magical duel, and the pair of star-crossed lovers who might break the cycle if they don't break each other first. If you love the time travel romance of Outlander and the lush, haunting magic of the night circus, this is the book for you. Pre-order Heart's Gambit today at barnesandnobles.com and grab your copy when it hits shelves on February 3rd, 2026, wherever books are sold. Again, pre-order Heart's Gambit today at barnesandnoble.com and grab a copy when it hits store shelves on February 3rd, 2026. And while you're at it, don't forget to buy a copy of today's guest book and support their projects as well. Support authors, support bold stories. Now, back to Craft Chat Chronicles. Let's get chatty. Very true, very true. Ashley, what was your biggest learning experience so far in the debut process?
It's patience. I think I have it, but even because, like I said, I started in 2020 and I was very okay with not I created maybe 15 agents at a time because I didn't want to mess anything up. I'm so anxious about everything. So I think I had patience, but even this whole process has been a lesson in you can't have what you want when you want it. So just get used to waiting. And that's okay. And I don't know if everybody else is still working also, but I am. I don't plan to quit my job anytime soon. So it's good in a way that it's not like a rush, but it feels like sometimes it's a hurry up and then wait, now hurry up. So I'm trying to just not being in control is very difficult for me. So all of that is part of the lesson in patience and just you've done what you can and now it's up to them. And when they need you again, they will let you know. And I should be writing my second book as well because it's due at the end of the year, but I'm not.
Dami, what do you wish you knew before you got your book deal?
I think I wish I knew how, but I think what a lot of people already alluded to, which is how slow the process can be. I think patience is something, and I'm not a patient person, and so it's just been an uphill battle, honestly, the whole time. I think if I'd known and really understood that it was going to be a slow process, and that's okay, that maybe would have been a little bit better for me. You kind of, especially I'm thinking more so especially the querying process too, it just takes a lot of time to hear back from people. I think 5-10-ish years ago, the response rate was a little bit faster, getting a little bit more feedback a little bit faster, that sort of thing, and things have changed. And so response times are just so much longer as well. And I think I'd probably found older subreddits that said that the response time is this, and that is not the case anymore. And so I was not prepared for how long the response times are. And then even now I'm having a publishing deal, but still having to wait, with in terms of developmental edits and turn this in, we'll need this soon, get it sent, and then still waiting for a couple months to hear back, what are the updates? There are no updates. Okay. And that's okay too. But publishing is slow, and that's normal.
Arriel, what do you think you did right that helped you get a book deal and helped you break in?
That's such a good one. I'm gonna say all the applying for residencies and fellowships that I did is, I think, what helped, specifically Lit Up, because I was not going to apply. But 3 people had sent me the application, and I was like, okay, I don't think she's ready, but I'm gonna give them this and hope that that's the case. But I guess I learned sometimes you don't feel like you're ready, and if you wait until you feel like it, you will have maybe waited too long. Because I didn't think I was ready for Lit Up. I didn't the plot from when I was in Lit Up for this same book is so different now. The universe is the same, but what I thought I wanted to do with the book is so different than what I actually wanted to do. So I think, just remembering to be open and remembering that this will shift so much, whether you're ready or not. So you might as well get ready. It was such a learning curve, though, because I worked in publishing for a while. I think for about 5 years. So there were all these things I thought I knew, but I've only worked in adult and I write for children. So there are some things that are just done differently. And so I'm kind of learning, to be ready, learning, oh, they're going to expect this, but also learning like, okay, you don't know everything they will expect, or you don't know everything that you even need to be ready for. And that is okay. And that's part of the debut process, I think, that makes it so special.
Love that. Jill, do you have any special plans for like promotion and launch? I know you have your Afronauts podcast. Do you have any other fun things planned?
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff. I was just thinking the other day, I need to make like a graphic that's like, here's what my fall looks like, because it is wild. Yeah, I have a bunch of events. I'm lucky enough to be at a few festivals, kind of around the South this fall. And then my launch event, the Monday before my book comes out, is going to be like a Hot Ones style Q&A. So like hot wings with me and like a really great like writer friend of mine, at like a bar coffee shop here in downtown Atlanta. So I'm excited for that. I mean, I think as far as like promo, and we talked a little bit about this, but like, as far as like things I've done to try to like promote my book, I think like one of the most effective things that you can do, the key to like having a book break out and like do well, I think, is like writing a good one that like audiences and readers will like, and then getting it in front of as many people as possible. And, it used to be the case that publishers would do this, by like giving ARCs, advanced reader copies to people kind of far and wide. Paper's expensive, they're cutting costs. That doesn't happen as much anymore. I was very lucky that my publisher did print quite a few ARCs to take to like librarian and bookseller conferences this summer. And I think those did well. Again, like I have no idea like how, if people even read them. They might be like on someone's bookshelf or on someone's coffee table. I did reach out to quite a few influencers myself and say like, hey, I have ARCs, I printed some of my own ARCs. So I wanted enough, and I wanted to be able to control more of like who read it early, and that they're like I knew that I could get a better like laser focus on like the right reader for my book than my publisher could with like a broad net. And so I found those people early, and I said, hey, I think based on what I'm seeing on your Instagram profile that you'd like this, like, can I send it to you? And I think that worked really well. I think it helps me like find like their audience, right? If they like what they read, then they'll like my book too, ideally. Buzz is like hard to quantify, but I feel like by the end of that like attempt, I was seeing a lot of influencers say like, I'm seeing this book everywhere, which was nice because I was like, yeah, because I'm putting it everywhere. And people were liking it, which is good, and then it got some like, some more organic buzz, like Kirkus gave it a star and like got all this stuff. But yeah, I think like if you believe in your book and you really feel confident that like it's got a readership out there, like you owe it, I think, to yourself and to your story to find that audience, maybe a little bit faster or more accurately than your publisher can find, especially for marginalized authors. I think we just know who our books people are, right? And we've got to go find them because a publisher will do their best. But A, they're overworked. And B, they don't know these markets the way that we do and these audiences the way that we do. So yeah, I think whether you've got like a NetGalley widget or, your own ARCs or whatever it is, try to get the word out to like the pockets, even if they have like 500 followers. 500 loyal followers is better than 20,000 that never listen to what the influencer says, right? And publishers aren't checking for those small accounts. They're not part of their influencer programs. So I think just like be your own best advocate, hustle, yeah, and then let the word of mouth spread organically from there. But who it spreads among is important. So keep that in mind.
Love that. Love that. Before we get into questions from everybody, let's do like a quick round of craft advice since this is a craft chat. And we'll just like, I'll throw out a question and then somebody can give like a 1-sentence answer to it. Anybody on the panel can jump in. So how do you hook a reader from page one?
I'll take a stab at this, but I think that it depends on the genre you're writing. Absolutely. I think hooking a reader from page one with a book that's a rom-com is going to be, I feel like, almost harder than if it's a thriller or something where you already have your blood pumping when you're going into the book. But my rule of thumb has always been start off with a sentence that just makes them curious, in whether that's a sort of morbid curiosity or a sort of, oh, well, this looks really fascinating, or sort of, I have no idea what's going on. Anything that just keeps them moving past the first page onto the second, within reason, is fair game in my book.
Love that. How do you avoid the saggy middle?
I think learning how to cut the things that you love is the key. There are so many things that like I added midway through revision. I was like, oh, I love that. And my editor's like, nah. So I think getting comfortable with cutting things and killing your darlings, or just being like, maybe this is for another place or another book, or maybe this is for never is okay.
Love that. Love that. And how do you tie up the bows and come up with a satisfying conclusion to a novel?
I would say for this that it doesn't have to tie up all the bows. That you got to figure out what are the bows you need to tie and which are the ones that you can, let that be sort of either in the imagination, or if you're writing a book too, for that same thing, what are those things that carry over? But yeah, like leading us at the point that like what we were promised in the beginning is either delivered or upturned by the end, and we get an answer to that thing that we were curious about from the beginning. But it doesn't need to say, we don't need one of those things like at the end of 80s movies. We're like, where are they now? And we follow every single character to see what happened to them.
Love that. Jill, can you give us a tip on world building since you do the sci-fi fantasy?
Yeah, I think starting with a central idea and just following it to its conclusions, right? So like in my book, it's like all about like hyper productivity and like this like working all the time. So like, what do they eat? Probably like a vitamin bar, right? Like something like, so, right? Like just kind of think through like the central point of like, why you created this world the way that you did, whatever that theme is, and then play that out in food, culture, et cetera, et cetera.
Love
make
that.
it all feel cohesive and make it all like say the same thing, right?
Love that. Love that. Do we have any questions for our panelists? You can just jump right in, you guys, because I can't see everybody on my screen.
I know, Jill, you touched on social media presence and the importance of making sure you do a lot of your own work just to make sure you hit your audience. So would you give any advice to like new writers in terms of like preparation for the debut process? Like how contingent is a large social media presence prior to publishing?
Oh, presence, I would say like not at all. I mean, I think I came in before my book was even announced. I might have had like a few hundred followers on Instagram, and like maybe I cracked 1,000 on Twitter, maybe. I ended up with a lot of followers just through like making writer friends and like making those sorts of connections. I think, by far, the most important thing, especially if you have the book that you think is going to be your debut, maybe you've queried it or you have an agent and you're out on submission, right? Like if you wanted to start doing your like diligence on social media, I probably would start to like follow authors with similar books or similar audiences. And something really easy that I did, I could call my social media lounging like research, was if I followed those people and I saw like the posts they were reposting in their stories of like influencers who had read their book and was like, I loved it. I was like, great, you love this one, you're gonna love me. And I would add that influencer's post to a folder on Instagram and be like, great, like when the time comes, like I have all of these influencers that I know like similar things. I can reach out to them, reference this post and say like, I saw that you liked Legendborn. My book also, et cetera. So I think, that's how I would think about using social media in addition to like genuine relationships with authors, and influencers that like the kind of stuff that you like, right? Like just to use it for like the fun stuff too. But if you're thinking about how to use it for the purposes of promoting your book, obviously I promote my book a lot, like on social media. I have, I don't even know, maybe a couple thousand followers on Instagram now. I don't think that does as much as I think it does, right? Like I think I like want some semblance of control, and I want to, control the narrative about what my story is and like who I am and why I wrote it. That's important to me. I have 2 months to go, so I'm stepping on the gas intentionally at this point. But that would be unsustainable. I think unreasonable, further out than a certain point. And so, it really just comes down to like authentic connections. And then maybe if you want to do some like kind of market or influencer research on the side, that's helpful too.
Okay. And thank you so much.
Sorry. Ladies who have your pre-sale link, please put those in the chat so that, everybody has access to your pre-order link. Jill's book is currently available for pre-order. And Jill, you have your podcast too.
I
Does
do,
that
yeah.
bring a lot of
Afternoon's
traffic
pod.
to you?
I'm sorry, what?
Does that bring a lot of traffic to you?
I doubt it. I mean, maybe. It's really just a way for me and my like writing besties to talk about craft and stuff, and like stuff that we were talking about anyway. We're like, let's put a microphone on. Yeah, I don't think so. We didn't do it for that purpose, you know. Like we did it because we all love science fiction and and fantasy and like speculative and horror, all sorts of speculative works. And it was hard at the time, and still hard, I think, to find like Black communities where they were actively talking about that stuff from a craft perspective. And so we just kind of started the podcast as a way to like give back some of what we were learning at the time and kind of build a community in that way. But it's not, I personally don't think of it as a way to like market myself. I think there's like 8 people that listen to it regularly. So those 8, they pre-ordered, you know, like
I'm one of them.
They're diehard fans. So
Yep. Any other questions?
I had a question that Madison's spurred. I was thinking about in relation to building the audience, the email list. You hear a lot about, you know, you have the social media followers, but you own your email list. So I'm curious what you ladies did for that, and what you put in there, and has it actually been effective for you? And did agents or publishers want to see those numbers?
nobody ever asked me for numbers on anything. I mean, I guess they could see my social media following stuff, but nobody ever asked me for email numbers. I have a newsletter. I haven't used it as much as I could. I think the best advice that I found for social media stuff is like just find the handful of things that you enjoy and that like maybe where you come across the most naturally and use those. I think it makes a ton of sense to collect emails and kind of own that because you don't own a lot of your other like platforms. But for now, like Instagram is just where I come across the most. It's where I have the most fun, like TikTok, like stupid memes. Like that's where I'm just like, that's where it's an outlet for me right now. And I think if I could, I would do more of an email thing. But it's more just a matter of me prioritizing my energy at this point.
Yeah, nobody's ever asked me for numbers on anything either. And I
think it could be
have a
great.
mailing list, but I'm not a very good mailing list person. I don't use them very frequently enough.
Same. My agent, we did like sit down at the beginning of the year and just discuss goals. And she asked me if that was one of the things I wanted to do. So we decided I would do a Substack. And like the goal was very simple. Like I think she said like add 10 people a quarter or something like that. I've not done that, but I could have if I tried. And another thing, my editor, she asked me when we met, like, what do you want to do on social media? Like what, if you are a social media person, what is your platform? I was like, I prefer Twitter, but nobody's on it anymore. So she was like, that's fine. You don't have to do any of that. So I think most publishers at this point in the game are kind of like tailoring it to you. Like we said, unless you're writing nonfiction, you don't need a following. But if you have one or are willing to create one and that's fun to you, like don't do it if it's going to be work. But if it's fun for you and you want to do that, I think pick one and just kind of go with that.
Very true, very true. Any more questions?
I just want to hop in and ask, Ashley, I know that you did the Lit Up program, and I was wondering, like, because I know that you said you were queried and everything, so I was wondering, how did you like leverage your mentorship in your query letter, if you did?
Oh, definitely. Like that's the whole point. Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, because the part of the reason I really wanted to apply to Lit Up is because they promise to help you with marketing. And I think that's a huge thing coming from Reese's Book Club. I mean, she had so many followers and loyal followers. So that was one of the main reasons I wanted to be in it. And so they encouraged us. We went on a whole retreat in Nashville. It was amazing. And part of the workshops that we talked about was how to use Lit Up. And so we put, I want to say at the beginning, I put that there's a marketing commitment from Reese's Book Club as part of this. And then at the end, because we have mentors as well. And my mentor was Jasmine Guillory. So I was like, at the end, I also put that. So yes, all of that was in my query letter. And I think, I would imagine it probably got, because querying is awful. I hated my query letter. It's too long, but it worked. Like it got, probably a 50% request rate. So I think it did what it was supposed to. And that's why I applied for Lit Up.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Any more questions?
One more question, just in regards to the process of like interviewing and signing. With the planning of this, how involved are you as debut authors in deciding what you want to take part in? And like if you have any ideas, like how willing are publishers to go with your ideas versus how controlling are they? Like I'm just curious about that whole process.
Do you mean in terms of like appearances? Like is that what you mean? Like interviewing and signing?
Yeah, like interviewing and signing after the book comes out. I'm just wondering like when
Oh,
that
I
comes
see.
up in conversation. Sorry, in
Yeah,
terms of
no worries.
context.
Everyone should hop in. I think it varies by publisher, right? I know there's some publishers who kind of always do, or almost always do a book tour for their authors, even debuts, right? They kind of partner people that have written books for them and people that are new and kind of send them at least on like a regional tour. It's my experience that every publisher's marketing and publicity team kind of has a few tools in their arsenal that they kind of tweak according to that, like whatever the product is, whatever the book is, whoever the author is, what they might be bringing to the table. So yeah, I think it depends. Like I've had debut friends who were on panels and they were at like Comic-Con before their book even came out, doing signings and signing arcs. I have friends whose publishers have done almost nothing for them. My publisher has put me up for a few festivals. They seem to have a policy more that like you don't really get put up for stuff until the book is out, which like shocker, right? Like they want to make money back on their investment of like paying for, travel. So yeah, so like now that the book is getting closer to coming out, like I'm like my schedule's kind of filling up a little bit more. But I have also registered myself for a few festivals in the spring. So like it's kind of a mix, and every author, your budget's different or how much you like that kind of stuff is different, right? So everyone kind of personalizes it for themselves, but the publishers seem to have their own opinion on whether or not those things move the needle too.
And most of us are very early in the process. Jill is the one whose book is the closest to coming out. So she probably was the best suited to answer that question. Because like, for example, I don't even have an exact launch date yet.
And I can jump in, having gone through with the university press. Their marketing and publicity team did push the book, but more in like sending it out, to places for review. So it got listed as like the Poets and Writers magazine's one of the best books for writers, and that was because of them, because they sent it out there. They have not done much of anything as far as with scheduling us as authors, though they have been very supportive. Anything that we do. So for our book launch, they were happy to share the link to the online version of that. Anytime we have like speaking or anything, they'll amplify anything we're doing. But and even this is not like a small university press, like they're pretty decently sized, but they have not done any scheduling for us. They are really focused on the book, and so they might submit it for awards and stuff, but they don't put anything on our calendar.
I'll just add, since, a lot of us are in the very early stages, my publisher did ask a couple of questions, like, where's my hometown and where do I live? Because they want to start putting those like influencer and bookstore events together. But I'm also like, my book is set in Brooklyn and Tennessee, and I'm from Atlanta. So I have like 3 places that I want to go to personally. So I've already started talking to those bookstores to see like, what do I need to do? I know that a lot of authors do have to unfortunately fund themselves to get to different like conferences and things like that. So I know I wanted to go to Steamy LitCon next year. So I'm already talking to my publisher about that. Because I went this year and it was amazing. I was an assistant for my author friend and I loved it. So I hope to do that next year and hopefully my book will actually be out. But yeah, I think you have to start early, especially if you do know what you want, and just kind of be a little bit proactive, because you probably are going to honestly have to do a lot of that yourself.
And me and Jill are in Atlanta, by the way. So if you do an event in this end, then
absolutely,
we can maybe do something together.
I need to know where your event is, Jill. The hot ones. I will be there.
Yeah, it's at the reading room in Decatur.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we'll have that on Instagram soon. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty, is that everybody's questions? Okay, so in closing, I'm going to ask if each one of my panelists could give their best advice to aspiring writers. And you guys can just jump in any order.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Ashley.
No,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was going to say, stay true to your vision. I think depending on how your query and submission process goes, you might talk to a lot of editors and a lot of agents even who, you think they know what your vision is, but like really be listening to what they're saying or not saying so you can be sure that y'all are on the same page as far as your vision. And your vision, not just like, oh, how you want the book to be received, but also what kind of career you want to have, how fast you're interested in writing. And really any other things you're thinking about. Will you want to write another genre one day? Staying true to your vision, or like at least your idea of what your writing life and what your books look like, I think is really important.
Love that.
Yeah. I was gonna say, and this kind of piggybacks on what Arriel said earlier, is just like go for it. Even if you think it's out of reach, if it sounds crazy, like I never ever in a million years thought I would actually get into Lit Up, but I had a book, I submitted it, and it happened. So like reach beyond your wildest dreams and just, it can't hurt. All they can say is no. So do it.
Something that we said a lot in Millions of Suns is art is joy. And we don't mean that like, oh, everything's wonderful, because we know that the world isn't wonderful, right? We're facing hard things, but being able to use your voice and tell your story, or a story that matters to you, that is a joyful act. Protect that with your heart and soul, like, and everything you have. Protect the joy that you take in writing. Because it is really easy for that to get kind of crowded out by the logistics. And so find those ways and make it part of your job to stay in love with the work, because that's where the good stuff comes from.
I was going to say something really similar, which is like figure out what you need in order to keep going, because it's a long road, and there's lots of rejection and lots of critical feedback and like criticizing that comes with it. And it's really easy to get in your head about that and say, oh, I'm not good enough, I should just stop here. So if you need a positivity pass where someone reads your book and just tells you all the good stuff about it, do that. If you need to write out of order and write only like the fun cookie scenes and then like write to those scenes, like do that, right? Like whatever it takes to keep going, and like get really good at understanding yourself and figuring out like what motivation you need to just kind of persist, because you'll have to do a lot of pushing through.
I very much agree, Jill, with what you said. I think mine was going to be like just keep going, like just don't stop. If you need to take a pause, that's okay, but otherwise don't stop. But I think I will go with keep your eyes on your paper. Like don't like compare, don't look around. Oh, that person did this, but this person did this many. They only submitted this many queries, and this person's got their edits letter or what, all that type of stuff. Like just keep your eyes on your paper. It's just you and the art, and kind of your journey. And it's like that for every project. I think too, Christine, I think you were mentioning too, like it's easy to even compare like how things went with like the first project and how things are going with the second project, because I'm very much like in that position right now. And I have to remind myself that like these are two different projects and they're doing their own thing and they're on their own journey. And I should not be comparing and contrasting either, because then I think I will like fall into this trap of like, well, I don't feel like this story is like as good enough anymore, or what have you. Like they're on their own journey, and I should treat them that way too. So yeah, that would be kind of my big advice.
I'm going to echo everything everyone has said here, but something that I guess I would add is there's no real formula for success. There's nothing, and it sounds almost daunting when I first heard it, certainly, but there's nothing in terms of a rubric or guidelines that you can follow that will definitively get you an agent or definitively get your book picked up by a publishing house. And I know, especially if you're starting regardless of where you are in the query process, whether you have your book written or you're just drafting your query, there's so much noise online that tells you what you need to do and how you need to do it and what the word count should be for your query. But I know I'm someone who succeeded with a longer query than what most people would say online. And I've seen other people go from all sorts of word counts in terms of their manuscript, all sorts of word counts when it comes to their story, and all sorts of timelines when it comes to how long they've been on submission. And so I would echo everyone saying, keep going. maybe look at other people's data sets in terms of informing you what they've done, but don't use that as a guideline or any sort of metric in comparison to your own work, because every time you put out a work into the world, you are creating your own formula for what success will look like for you. And it's the hardest thing in the world. Like I have terrible anxiety, and I know it's the hardest thing in the world to just look at your work and your work alone and just focus in. But something else I've found is surrounding yourself with amazing people. I know I've met so many amazing authors, including like everyone over here. And surrounding yourself with people who will uplift you, who will gently nudge you towards that reminder saying it's okay, just keep your eyes ahead of you and in front of on your work and on your work only, is so important, because this is a long journey. It's a lonely journey at times, because writing can be a very individual job before the editing and everything comes in. But the people around you, the people you surround yourself with and you share your work with, can just as much as the craft make it so much better.
Love that. So I guess my advice would be the same. Just keep going, network, build community. You guys are already doing that because you're logged into nights like this and you guys are doing the Drexel thing on campus. Just keep working at it. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And for my panelists, last question, I promise. What's up next for you guys? What are we working on next? What's the plan ahead, the path ahead? Are we going out with proposals? Or are we going out with a full,
Ashley, I saw you. Okay. I'm working on book 2. So my deal was a 2-book deal. And by working on book 2, I mean, I sent 2 ideas to my agent and I said, which one do you feel like is next? And then we still need to talk to my editors about it. But she was like, I'm feeling strongly about this one. So I'm outlining. I'm not an outliner. But I'm trying to start that way. So that's where I'm at. And I'm just, trying to get ready to start promoting book 1. Yeah, so kind of in between the 2 right now.
Yeah, I also got a 2-book deal. So they didn't give me that based on any kind of proposal or anything. I think Berkeley just likes to give out 2-book deals. So I have an idea, and me and my agent have discussed it, and she really likes it. But technically, my proposal was due at the end of May. That did not happen. So at some point, I am an outliner, so I will get that to them. But nobody's asked for it, luckily. So and hopefully they don't see this, and in their heads, I'm working on it.
I'm going to jump in with all the BookTube people as well. Yeah, mine was a 2-book deal as well. And they, like my editor, wanted to see what I had in mind for book 2 before we even started editing book 1, just so we could have that in mind going throughout. I have not started. I'm pretty sure it's due at the end of November. Fingers crossed that it happens. And as someone with, given my really bad anxiety, I don't know, please jump in if I'm not the only insane person doing this. But as someone with really bad anxiety, whenever I get stuck in a chapter and I start second guessing my entire existence and second guessing the whole story, I just sort of jump to a different book, and I'm like, why don't I write this instead? And so that's what's going on. I'm sort of flip-flopping, and whenever I, doubt myself in one, hop over the bridge to the other. Maybe I'll have 2 books done by the end of the year. Maybe I'll have none. Who knows?
Yeah, that's exactly how I have a collection of short stories and 2 other manuscripts for other novels. I don't have anyone who's signed up to buy them, though, so that's the problem. So they're in various states of completion, and then I have a 39-page outline for the next novel that I want to write. So yes, I'm always jumping onto the next one. I'm like, maybe I should finish one of those. But yeah, I actually think it's wonderful to have multiple projects going, to be able to hop from one thing to the next when you feel a little insecure or burnt out on one of them.
Same. I think we're all probably on the same place. I just finished the developmental edits for book 1, and I'm going to be starting book 2 for the 2-book deal. But I also, in the middle, did a little proposal that I haven't sent for some dark academia. So, yep. I appreciate you guys coming tonight. I Thank you so much. The pre-sale links are available in the chat, you guys. If you want to support our authors, books will be in the store next year. So, good luck to everybody. Thank you again for coming. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody coming through and supporting.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
This was
Of
great.
course,
Yeah,
anytime.
thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Anytime. It's been fun, you guys. Thanks.
That wraps up today's Craft Chat Chronicles with JD Myall. Thanks for joining us. If you liked the episode, please comment, subscribe, and share. For show notes, writing workshops, and tips, head to jdmyall.com. That's jdmyall.com. While you're there, join JD's mailing list for updates, giveaways, and more.
Are you struggling to keep your writing organized? Trust me, I've been there. I want to introduce you to Scrivener, the ultimate program for all writers. You can outline, draft, and even edit all in one place. Whether it's your next novel, screenplay, or even thesis, Scrivener helps you stay focused and finish strong. Scrivener adapts to your workflow. From your first draft to the final edit, it's a writer's secret weapon. Click on the link below and get started on your Scrivener writing journey today.